person's wearing a cowboy hat. This is a fundraising campaign when the people would go around, again, raising funds, in this case for the war relief program in China against the Japanese. They would walk around carrying a big flag, and people would throw money into the flag, and that was one way that money was raised. At the end of the war, there was a huge, of course, especially, this is a picture taken on Elizabeth Street, which is in Chinatown. It was just filled with people celebrating the end of the war. And it was a big celebration because at the end of the war, there were about 600 Chinese Canadians who had served in the Canadian forces. And because of their involvement and many other things that were happening, one strong influence was the repeal of the Exclusion Act in the United States earlier, that Canada repealed the Exclusion Act in 1943. Now, this should have led to open immigration for the Chinese now to start bringing over all these men who'd been living like bachelors in Toronto and in Canada. You would have thought that they would start to bring their families over, their wives and if they had any children. But Canada still had a lot of immigration restrictions in place. And so the Exclusion Act ended in 1947, and even in 1957 there was still so much preventing the Chinese from being united. And that's just a picture taken in Ottawa, which is the capital of Canada, with the Prime Minister who's seated in the center there. A delegation of people from across Canada to lobby for additional changes to allow for family reunification. And my mother was among that group that went there, and it was very pivotal in terms of her community involvement, because she, as you can see, she's the only woman in that group, and that was very typical of her time period, that she was such an activist and being a woman at that time. This.
Your mom, because she spoke excellent Chinese and excellent English, and so she really represented the Chinese community very, very well. And that's one of the reasons she probably got the order, the ribbon, because she was such a good spokesperson, and also being a woman, it was highly unusual.
Yeah, that was, there's a long story involved with this particular photo, which I won't go into because I just want to make sure I stay on time here. But this was during the whole time after the end of the Exclusion Act until the immigration laws eased up. The whole Paper Sons happened not only in Canada, but I also know it happened in the United States, where people were so desperate to be reunited with their wives and children that these people took on false identities so that they could come in under another name. So it wasn't until 1967 that the immigration laws finally, all the anti-Chinese legislation, any language in the immigration laws were taken away, so that the Chinese from 1967 onwards were allowed to come into Canada based on the same grounds as other groups coming from other countries. I do talk about in the book the various accomplishments of individuals for Toronto, and there has been the Albert and Rose Zhang Entrance Scholarship for engineering. This was something that was established in 2007 by the three children to honor their parents. And Albert Zhang, who was a graduate from the University of Toronto in 1938, was one of the first Chinese-Canadian professional engineers. In 1940, he joined Ontario Hydro, where he had a distinguished 36-year career. Zhang came to Canada from China as an 8-year-old and attended Central Technical School. His daughter, Dr. Roberta Zhang, a radiologist in Toronto, described him, "To us, he personified integrity. He was extremely capable with a strong work ethic. He always stressed the importance of a good education. I think his example should encourage the students of today. Whatever the difficulties, they have the keys to their own success in life. It takes hard work and perseverance, but is within their reach." One son is Dr. Raynard Zhang, just got to turn the page here, who works as a scientist in California, but I think it's past tense now, right? You're retired. The second son, Dr. Winston Zhang, was the chief of obstetrics and gynecology in the Mississauga Hospital until his retirement. So I think that's just a another example of some of the, that's the thing, is that there were so many Chinese who were the first to do this and the first to do that because things were so bad. And you have people like Albert Zhang, who broke glass ceilings to accomplish what they did, and then their legacy lives in on the success of their children, the 3 children. So that's just an example of the accomplishments of the Torontonians in Toronto, in the Chinese community. So thank you very much, and Marilyn and David, thanks for joining us. It was a treat. And I'm going to hand it back over to Wendell.
All right. Let's thank Arlene for coming, and she really didn't have to do this. She just said, I wanted to come by and bring a book by, and I said, light bulb, and I said, let's snag a little bit of her time and see if she could do this on her vacation. So thank you to her and Leo for making the time all the way from the Great North. So we do have a little bit of time. We can close it, and you can talk some more with Arlene and other folks here. Just mingle or enjoy the library, the beautiful Asian Ranch Library here. Or I don't really have much more to say. I think it's just fascinating to see all the work that you put into the book. I remember when it was an outline, and we were talking about it, and you asked for some input, and wow. Now it's here, so it's congratulations. It sounds also like the Oakland Library is interested in getting a few books in circulation, not just this one, but your children's books. So we're excited to hear that. So you're not just in Toronto, you're in Oakland. Just want to thank Phil as well for coming and helping out with support in ways. My brother-in-law Phil, May over here, who's coming, a lawyer, a practicing lawyer, and a friend of the family's, and some other folks here. I think there's a young woman who's from Queen's University, or?
Actually, I went to McGill, but my father went to U of T.
Oh. McGill and U of T, okay, all right. Okay, and some other folks who just popped in, so thank you for coming, and thank you, Karen, for videoing. And I guess that's about it for now. There's, in terms of books, we're all trying to grab a book here. Arlene can only bring 6 on the plane. As you can see, they're pretty thick, hefty. So there's 6 available. Some might be spoken for, but if you all want a copy, we can make sure you get a copy. Just make sure you sign in on the list, and we'll make sure you get notified as to when it gets released on Amazon. In December 17 here in the United States. It's been released in Canada. So we'll make sure you get a copy. And please also take some food, more cookies and some char siu baos, and a little bit of sparkling, non-alcoholic drinks.
Arlene's going to sign books for people.
And Arlene, of course, would sign books and all that. So thank you. Thank you, Mom.
Our pleasure. Glad we could participate and hear those kids do. Takes me home.
Makes you homesick. Yes, we all miss Canada.
I got 3 homes.
3 homes, Arizona, the Bay, and Canada. Okay, thank you, everybody.